Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our city council meeting. I'd ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Here.
Councilmember Litzo. Here. Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey.
Here.
Thank you. We have two public hearings tonight. The first is a request for a zoning map amendment R4 to B3 for the property at 10557 Big Bend Boulevard. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I would offer as Exhibit 1 an affidavit of publication verifying that notice of this public hearing appeared in the legal ledger. Exhibit 2 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in St. Louis County. And Exhibit 3 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 4 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 5 is the viewer map showing the property that is the subject of the public hearing as well as the surrounding properties. Exhibit 6 is the report of the subcommittee dated October 19, 2022. Exhibit 7 is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated October 20, 2022, in which the commission recommended approval of a zoning map amendment going from R4 to B3 for the property at 10557 Big Bend Boulevard and a special use permit and major site plan for the construction of a new daycare on the properties at 10551 and 10557 Big Bend Boulevard. Exhibit 8 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood. I will note for the record that I will be offering the same exhibits into the next public hearing. So I'll do that by simply identifying that they're the same exhibits. Likewise, all of the testimony that's being presented considering the rezoning will become part of public record associated with the consideration of the special use permit and the major site plan. I will remind the city council that they are separate issues, meaning that if you rezone the property from R4 to B3, recognize that it doesn't necessarily mean that that will result in the construction of a new daycare. Something else could go in either because that didn't go forward or years from now, something else could go in. So again, I'm just reminding everyone that there are separate issues, but since they came together, we're going to treat them together. And so I encourage the council to engage in whatever discussion you want to relating to the application for the special use permit as part of this public hearing as well.
Okay, thank you, John. Mr. Oz, who will present this to the city council?
That would be City Planner 2, Amy Lowry.
Good evening. And as the city attorney said, I'm going to present all three of these issues together, if that's all right with you. So this is the aerial photo of the two lots. They are north of on Big Bend Road, just east of Kirkwood Road. Just a little bit zoomed in. Right now, this property is being used as a residence and the property next door is being used as a business. The reason for the rezoning is the property, the western property is zoned residential, the eastern property is zoned B3. And there are B3 zoned properties to the west, which is the Harley Davidson. And then there are some B1 properties to the east. North, there's R5 properties, which are, these are actually duplexes, and then the surrounding to the north is R4. Just some photos of the site. This is from Big Bend and some other photos of both the residential house and the businesses on the site. This site is across the street from Kirkwood Commons. Just a survey of the property. Together, both lots are just over 1 acre. So as part of this project, the lots will need to be consolidated. And because they're over 1 acre, the project will need to go to MSD for review. This is their development plan. The proposed building is about 10,600 square feet, and that'll be on 2 floors with a walkout. So from Big Bend Boulevard, it will just look like one story. They have the required parking of 25 spaces, and they will be providing 30. They will have a bike rack on site. This is a very complicated lot because, oops, go back, because they actually have 3 street frontages, which is this one here, which ends in a cul-de-sac, street frontage here, which is back in the Chester Heights neighborhood, and also a street frontage on Big Bend Boulevard. As I said, MSD will look at the plans for their treatment of their impervious surface. They've already opened a dialogue with MSD, and they've received conceptual approval for their water quality measures. The applicant provided a technical memo for the traffic impacts. Big Bend Boulevard is under the jurisdiction of St. Louis County. They do estimate 524 daily trips with 121 in the AM peak hour and 122 in the PM peak hour. And they're proposing right in, right out only turns on Big Bend Boulevard. St. Louis County Transportation did get a copy of their technical memo, and they didn't see the need to require a 4th leg to the adjacent signalized intersection, which is the intersection where Kirkwood Commons is to the south. If that was to be considered, that would have had a significant impact on both offsite and onsite on the design. So the county didn't think it was warranted based on the trip generation information in the technical memo. There's just some interior floor plans. They're proposing 18 employees and 110 children from ages 6 weeks to 6 years with 7 classrooms. As I said before, because of the complicated street frontages, the landscape plan was complicated as well, but they've met all of the frontage, parking lot, and buffering requirements. They do have to buffer against the residential properties here to the north and the one residential property that has an Ullman address here to the east. The Planning and Zoning Commission did request with the street frontage trees that they not put any trees in this area just because of the sightline visibility for turning from the property out onto Big Bend. There is a curve here and the traffic does move pretty fast. So the trees were all shifted to the western part of the frontage. And we did receive a lighting plan that met the lighting code after the Planning and Zoning Commission met. So that was one of P&Z's conditions, was to revise the lighting plan. That's been done. The other conditions of note were to seek final approval from St. Louis County Department of Transportation on the egress and ingress to the site. And also condition was to have a consolidation plat of the 2 lots provided to the city before we issued building permits. So we are looking at 3 different things here, criteria for zoning map amendments. And I'll just cite number 1, which is the amendments consisted with the comprehensive plan, other adopted city plans, and stated purposes of the code. Number 4, the uses permitted on the property, if they were reclassified, would be compatible with uses permitted on properties in the immediate vicinity. We also have criteria for special use permits because the daycare center is a special use permit. In this regard, number 5, the special use shall have suitable landscaping, screening, fencing, wherever deemed necessary by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to protect surrounding uses. And number 7, the proposed use will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and such use will not change the essential character of the same area. And then additional criteria for special use, number 8, the proposed use will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment or conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare. And also there, because it's a new building, this is also a site plan review. And there are criteria for that under the code. One of which is number 2, development complies with the requirements of this code and other related codes and ordinances enforced by the city. And the criteria go on. Number 10, the development will provide adequate lighting for the safe and convenience use of the sites, walkways, driveways, and parking areas. And this review criteria does go on to 19 total. So I'm available for any questions. The applicant is here as well. I know there may be some questions about the traffic, so I'd be happy to answer.
Would the applicant like to say anything before we go to questions?
The presentation also. Hi, my name's Ben Udell. I'm representing the applicant tonight, NVS Properties. I'm with Murphy Development Group out of Chicago. Also here with Patrick Bennett, who works with CEC Engineering, local to St. Charles. And yeah, so we're really excited about coming into Kirkwood with this daycare. So to get started here, I'll try not to go over anything that Amy already went over, since she did a good job at covering some of the site plan and design and whatnot. But yeah, so in Murphy Development Group, we work on a plethora of projects, but we've been working now for 2 years with Higher Ground Education. Their brand is Guidepost Montessori. So we've a big pipeline with them, mostly focused on the Midwest. We're also working on a project currently in Baldwin, not too far away. And we work with the same design build team for all these projects. So Global Power Construction is also they're out of Central Illinois, and we work with Patrick and his folks on a majority of these projects as well. So getting into the tenant, as I mentioned, the company that is Higher Ground Education. The brand, which is their largest brand that we're building here and is our only focus with them, is Guidepost Montessori. So Guidepost Montessori is they're the largest Montessori operator in the United States. They're currently at 104 locations. It's a fast growing company. They're throughout the entire US and have a heavy Midwest presence. And it's not, every childcare institution is different. They for sure have a heavy focus on education. It's not just a daycare. And, we leave that side of it to them, but they do a good job. And it's mostly focused, they do bring in infants and toddlers, but the primary focus and use is between the ages of 2 and 6. So here's our site map here, which Amy already went over, with the one parcel zoned R4 and one zone B3. This one's kind of just highlighting our application, the hours that the school is going to open or be operating. So if the school operates from 7 to 6, and it's just Monday through Friday. The Montessori school program operates from 8:30 to 3, and then they also have before school and after school care. So that's why it's open longer than that. And there's no use really on the weekends. The school is not operating, and there's no use after 6 p.m. either, which is their ordinary hours, unless there's an occasional, school play or holiday get together, parent teacher conferences and stuff like that. But that only happens a few times a year. Kind of goes into traffic and pick up and drop off here, but I have another slide, so we'll get into that a bit later. This is our site plan design here, which Amy went over, and our floor plan. Landscaping is all covered. We can go back if needed, but site signage. So this is, I mean, this is just kind of our typical site signage, what it looks like. We'll have a monument sign out front and signage up on the front of the building. About it. And then site fencing, so this is typically what our site fencing looks like. Varies a little bit depending on location and local requirements. But you know, I mean, we're higher ground is signing a 20-year lease with us, and we're looking to be a long-term asset with the community. And we try and stick with fencing that's gonna last and be sturdy for a long time. So we go with the aluminum fencing. It'll be 6 foot tall here, and we also have the site-proof wood fencing, which we're going to be using abutting the residential neighborhoods. And the other fencing is kind of what goes in between the playgrounds and other spaces per state code. So here's a slide that goes through our typical traffic patterns. We kind of like to bring this one up and point it out because it is commonly misunderstood that childcare uses have traffic like an elementary school, middle school, high school, which obviously leads to a lot of traffic jams and, you know, sometimes is a concern. But luckily for our use, we have, since the Montessori program, it has a certain time frame, but it's not quite like a school where you have to show up for your first class and there's a certain deadline and a certain time. So they have their, you know, they typically start around 8 o'clock, but there's also before school care. So it's pretty scattered when students are dropped off. As you could see here, most of the pickup and drop off, or most of the drop off in the mornings occurs between 8 and 8:45 a.m., 7:45, 9 o'clock. And at the heaviest peak, 16% of the students are dropped off. As you can see, they're kind of between 8:15 and 8:45. So with this school at maximum capacity, it's going to be roughly 90 kids. And part of the process also is when the parents drop off their kids, they pull in, they park, they have to get out of their car, walk their child into the school, check them in. So it is a process, typically takes 7 to 8 minutes per the traffic studies that we've conducted at a lot of the schools that are currently operating. So we're pretty intelligent with, you know, how it kind of lays out and how many spaces we actually need. A lot of times we end up doing more than is actually required in terms of parking, like we are in this case, just because we feel that that's adequate and that's what we're going to want. And it's actually a little bit more scattered in the afternoons, but it's kind of similar. The peak is actually at 15%, with pickups kind of starting at 5 o'clock and working their way until 6. But yeah, that's really how the pickup and drop off works. And while there are a lot of children and parents coming in and out, it has a good spread out pattern that ends up working well for us. And here's some design examples from existing schools. These are ones in Kentwood, Michigan, and Verona, Wisconsin, suburbs outside of Grand Rapids and Madison. So these aren't, obviously our design in Kirkwood here is going to be 2 stories. These are single stories, but it's overall going to be a similar look and feel. Kind of trying to blend in, not just with the commercial aspect, but also trying to blend in with the residential aspect, hardy board siding and the shingled roof and whatnot. So it kind of tends to fit in, and we're normally a part of a neighborhood and liking to be a part of that neighborhood for a long time. So helps us fit in. Here's some pictures of the outdoor play areas that we typically have. They'll look something like this. This is governed by state code, local code. So it's standard lumber playgrounds, with a mulch area, grassy area, and sunshades. And then here's some examples of what some of the classrooms look like. And that's all we have. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer and talk through.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any council questions for either Amy and did you say Ben?
Yes,
Is it
Ben.
for Amy or Ben? See any hands? Councilmember Gibbons?
Well, I am absolutely thrilled that we're going to get another Montessori school. These are high quality
Yeah.
educations for our young people in Kirkwood. I think it's a great location for it. I am very concerned about getting into it from our Kirkwood residents. So from what I've read, they believe 80% of the people that are going to be dropping off are going to be coming from the east. I don't know how you get to that, because most Kirkwood residents would be coming from the west and going east. And how are they going to get to this location? Go down to the stoplight at Fillmore and do a U-turn, or have to pull into Fillmore? But I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for our community. I talked to the other two Montessori, or there are the two that I know of in Kirkwood. Today, they both have waiting lists. They said they could, they could fill their classrooms. The one that's most like this, Kirkwood Children's House, 60% of their kids are coming from Kirkwood. So I don't understand this, how our Kirkwood residents are going to get here. Can anybody answer that?
Yeah, this is kind of something that we looked into early. Obviously, it's a busy road. And there's not much room to make a left turn into there. So, part of it, we didn't want to try and mess with the current flow of traffic. We weren't going to allow any left turns in there. But yeah, we got on, had the local authorities look into it pretty early on, and opine on their opinion. I think there might have to be alternative routes to get to the daycare. I don't think it's necessarily a concern to us. It's more so just the route for parents to dropping their kids off at the facility might just tack on a couple minutes if they have to weave around or go to the next intersection before turning around. But there's not really an opportunity to turn directly left in, and it's really doesn't appear to be somewhere that people would try to do that. So we're not too worried about that. I don't know, Patrick, if you have anything to chime in on the traffic situation there, but I think we looked into it long and hard, and that was one of the earlier things that we studied. So we're pretty confident in the safety and that it'll work out.
Explain what you mean. You're confident and it's going to work out. How would, like Councilmember Gibbons says, someone coming from the west to the east? I think you said, are they going to go down and make U-turns?
We don't wanna
That's how I
make-
want to understand.
yeah.
Would you say you're confident it'll work out? I'm
I'm
curious.
not confident.
Hey,
Can't come off of Kirkwood Road.
Got the floor. You're confident that it's going to work out. What does that mean? What gives you the data to say?
Yeah,
say that?
I don't want to, shimmy around it. I'm not local to the area. I've driven by and checked it out. But we kind of left that up to the local traffic authorities to look into for us. And they felt that there were multiple safe alternatives. I believe it was down Kirkwood Road to turn around and come in here. So.
Is there anything from staff you want to address to that specific question?
As you're aware, Big Bend is a county roadway.
Right.
Okay, so they have jurisdiction on for egress and ingress. Okay, and that's part of their access management plan also. So there is a median that goes on Big Bend right now in front of it that prevents any type of left turns or right turns. When the gentleman speaks about alternative routes, there would be alternative routes. And what we find out with certain destinations like this, when we have those types of restrictions, is that when you want to get there, you will find the most common route that you were going to take. Okay, so there are additional routes that could be taken where they could come down, through down Leffingwell to Big Bend and come in what we might call the other side of the city, okay, and come in and make a right turn to get into the facility and make a left turn, another right turn to get out of the facility. But remember, as Amy talked about, St. Louis County Highway Department evaluated this, did not recommend going to the signalized intersection, and recommended that they put in or let it right in, right out, also at the entrance. So it is intended to restrict traffic for safety purposes and not for convenience.
I just, when Ben said, we're confident, I just wanted to see what what
It's
led
similar
to that.
Right, it's similar to a destination. It's a destination. So how people get there, they tend to gravitate towards what's more convenient for them.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, Councilmember Goods, I just want to follow up. on
Well,
that.
yeah, I still am not, I'm not comfortable with that. Because I tried to get over there today. I mean, we're gonna have people doing U-turns and,
Well, remember, this is the data, so.
okay,
We'll get to that.
so
next time.
Gordon Place, is that not a street?
Are you referencing the cul-de-sac?
No, I'm referencing the street that's located right behind here. And it goes over here to
Yeah, to
Taylor.
the northeast corner of the site. We're at 90-degree turn.
Gordon is off of Fillmore.
Yeah, so
Go over
Gordon and Ullman connect at the northeast corner of the site, and that's one of the street frontages.
Yeah, but Gordon goes behind this entire property and goes over to Taylor.
It does not.
I was there today. There's a street,
There-
there's a street there.
There is not. You,
Not right behind, I don't think. You're talking right behind the property? I'm just trying to clarify.
the pointer. So Ullman, I'd have to look back in the history. Ullman, Bill might know. I know Taylor was more recently vacated. It used to go through and was closed off, and there's still a pedestrian connection. There's still right of way for Taylor to
Oh.
the south
Okay, all right.
connection.
Well, why can't there be, when we've got a light at Fillmore? Like. there's
Fillmore's over here,
Yeah, and there's a light there on Big Bend,
correct?
so,
So come back through Gordon and then somehow
And-
enter here.
yeah.
So we did not want to encourage commercial traffic to go through the residential neighborhood. So they asked about connection from Taylor on the north side.
Yeah.
And the city's original opinion in early discussions was no, we don't want you to access commercial businesses through the residential neighborhood. And now we can't prohibit anybody from using that as one of the alternative routes. But as in the sense of providing direct access, and there's also topography issues with the direct access, right? It's a large drop off from south to north. So they're using that to accommodate the walkout nature of the building. But again, staff's opinion is we don't want to encourage commercial traffic into the neighborhood to the north. And as Bill mentioned, so there's a few things. It's St. Louis County right away. They are legally allowed to have access. They have to be granted access to their property. And the median that's there, they're keeping the location of the drive in the existing location. And there's a median there. And it is that right in, right out is really to make the access as safe as possible. That is the preference over making it convenient for somebody going eastbound, right, to get to it. If it means Kirkwood residents that live west won't go here, but it'll be Crestwood people that will go here, then that's what it'll be. That's not really what we're concerned about, is making it safe and the fact that it meets our code, right?
Are the two sidewalks on either side
Mhm.
that go from the neighborhood up to Big Ben, will they be retained?
Yeah, so they're both, the one on the west is in a public right of way, it's public
Yeah.
sidewalk. This
Yeah.
one is in an easement. There's still
Okay.
an easement for that one, right? Yeah, so public, both being maintained for pedestrian access.
Okay. And just curious, does the school include kindergarten or not?
It does not, I think it goes up to 6, but it's, yeah, but the information we were provided was that it would be licensed through the state as a daycare rather than a school. So that's why it's through our code, it's being classified as a daycare and not a kindergarten.
Okay.
So
That's all my questions.
Okay, thanks. Let's go on the list. Councilmember Litzo, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you. So, as far as the rezoning, as Amy said, this, we could grant the rezoning, but then if something should happen with this particular developer, we've opened ourselves up to other permitted uses or special use permit petitions. And I'm just wondering, I mean, it appears to be a very earnest petition that they put together. So I don't have major concerns, but just to, think about this, eyes wide open. What kinds of permitted uses or special use permits other than special use permit daycare might allowed to
Yeah.
come in there, and we might have buyer's remorse, or how do we think about that?
So as city attorney mentioned at the onset, it's always the case with rezonings that you need to consider that the proposed use may not always be the proposed use in a week, 10 years, 100 years, right? So what Amy mentioned is one of the criteria is it consistent with our comprehensive plan and our future land use plan? And this area is shown as a transition area, which allows for various activities. But the other thing to look at is adjacent uses. The rezoning is this middle piece that is surrounded by B3 to the west and B3 to the east. So your buyer's remorse would be only that the same thing here is what can happen here and here currently. So it's, I think from staff's opinion, is consistent with the land use plan and with the surrounding uses. There's a long list, of permitted uses in B3, and any special use would come back to you all as well. But it's any retail business, office business, any of those. We've tried to set up the code to where if it's something that needs special attention, it requires a special use permit, and they would have to come back, in addition. Even.
So I didn't look at the list of permitted uses and do all my homework, but
Yeah.
could be, I don't know, marijuana dispensary, who knows?
Not with our
Well,
current,
no,
not with our
because
current
of-
regulations at this
yes.
location, yeah.
okay. So you don't see any really, foresee any issues with,
I think it's consistent with the corridor, the location, and the land use plan.
okay. Well, I am concerned about the right in, right out access only and how people might get around that, and potentially, I don't know if it would cause safety issues or anything like that, but I think we've already sort of discussed that. As far as prohibiting users on that South Taylor cul-de-sac. There's no way of, that's a public
Right.
street, right?
Correct.
Users could go in the back door, I suppose, and to go pick up their kids, park on.
The access is,
cul-de-sac.
I think, as you mentioned, there's a check-in, it's secure entrance, right?
Yeah, to answer that, part of the process is you physically have to park and walk your you
Right,
have to
but
check
there's
them in.
the
person.
sidewalk and you could potentially.
I
but-
could see if someone lives in the neighborhood to the north walking their child to school, but they're going to have to park and let them in, and there's not gonna be access for them to do that from there.
Mhm. Fire would have access to the rear of the building from the South Taylor cul-de-sac, certainly. And that would almost be, either required or desirable to have that access to that section of the property. Could you then maybe, I'm trying to, I read in the literature something about that this is a faith-based concern. Could you explain what
Faith-based concern, you said?
faith-based business, faith-based
It's-
Montessori?
No, it's not.
I'm just wondering, well, I read it in here somewhere. I'm not making it up. So I was just wondering, what does the faith-based aspect of this business have to do with anything? Is it have?
Yeah, it's not a faith-based institution by any means. and
There's no religious affiliation?
There's no religious, there's no religious curriculum or affiliation, no.
Okay, it is, I mean, I can't offhand cite the exact page that it was mentioned about higher ground and guideposts, but I was just curious what, if there was actually gonna be some sort of curriculum or teaching or, what kind of.
No,
religion.
just math, English. It's basic because they're 2 to 6 year olds, but basic science and so
Mhm.
on.
Mhm. So, also, let's see, a letter from Murphy Real Estate, in October, indicated number of students is about 110. But then one of your slides said more like 80 to 90.
Yeah, so we were originally planning for more, but after sort of delving into the site, and it's actually, Amy mentioned 7 classrooms earlier. There's 7 rooms, there's 6 classrooms. One of them's what we call a GMA, which is just a general play space that we'll have in there. But yeah, I mean, we kind of scaled back from our original plans. Part of that was, just parking and the floor plans that we ended up getting to, and just thought it was be a better fit here.
Okay. Let's see. Could you talk a little bit about MSD's comments about impervious and runoff issues, because there is a drop off there and whatever
let-
requirements that with stormwater and all of that.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Bennett. I'm with Civil and Environmental Consultants. We're not super deep in the design yet, but as Amy made reference to, we've submitted for conceptual review where MSD typically identifies any downstream flooding problems or initial concerns with the project. They have none. We have general layout. Hard to see on this right here, but right there, a little rectangle there, a little rectangle there. We're proposing some underground stormwater management measures to meet their requirements.
Okay, and so you don't have a major additional percentage of impervious, you're.
Correct.
Okay. All right, think that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sears, you have anything?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, I've got a question for Jonathan. Jonathan, forget for a moment whose responsibility Big Bend is
Mhm.
from a legal standpoint. Applying our Safe Streets Zero Street plan, would the intersection aligned with the signalized, would combining the entrance and access to this facility be safer combining the signalized intersection? Kirkwood comment.
would requiring the access to the site at the three-leg intersection now be safer
Mhm.
than the right in, right out as proposed? That's a hard question to answer. I think some of I can't say no, right? Things can always be safer. Unfortunately, the question that we ask is it warranted? Because that's what we can require, right?
Mhm.
So we can always ask for more or desire more or hope for more. But what has been determined is that this is safe in the way that it is proposed. One of the issues, and I know I've seen these around the county, when you have, I'll say, unequal distribution at a signalized entrance, right? There can be some downside to having one business served while the shopping center to the south is commercial entrance. It's many, right? It's a lot more volume, right? So the volume going east on the east-west leg and volume on the south leg are going to seriously outweigh the volume at the north leg. So again, I'm sure there would be some advantages to doing it. As Amy said early on, it was that question was asked by the applicant very early because it would have serious effects on the on-site design, right? So it's not as simple as in this design, it's not just, oh, just throw the intersection on the west and shift your parking a little. It would completely redesign the project. So they asked that question to both St. Louis County and the city early on, and our engineering division reviewed it as well with the traffic and determined that it was not necessary to make that full intersection. So
Yeah, I can get that. That's not necessary but is it preferred based on our philosophy of street design and access? And I'm thinking that the times that they're saying they'll have the highest level of traffic actually coincides with rush hour on Big Bend. And that's a tough stretch of road because there's a lot going on there. You've got tire operation there, people coming in and out of that. You've got construction type equipment coming out of
yeah,
Fillmore, Milwaukee Light right there. And to make it worse, you've got changing elevations and curves in the street too. It just seems that I'd really like to see an evaluation based strictly on complete streets and the Bureau
Vision Zero.
Zero.
criteria applied and come back with us what a recommendation would be. You know, we all too often appear to have hands off with other political subdivisions like the county and MoDOT when it comes to roads. And it's our responsibility to be the cheerleaders and proponents for the residents of the city rather than just saying, well, it's the county's, let it alone. And
Yeah, so I hear that, and I can tell you, I'm fully capable of ignoring St. Louis County's ownership on this. It's really more of a question for me of the difference between what we can require a private property owner to do by zoning requirement, because it has to be there has to be a connection to what the change that they're causing, and it has to be proportional to what we're requiring them to do. So while we may desire and there could be a lot safer design, we can't, unless we can prove through traffic study and things that it is necessary. Please, Mr. Hessel, stop me if you disagree, but we are limited in what we can require for off-site, especially requirements. So we look at, and I'm very much entrenched in Vision Zero and complete streets and all of that, right? And so they will do our checklists and they will look at whatever improvements they can make on the site. But when it comes to requiring them to make changes in the public right of way, it has to be warranted and proportional to what they are doing.
I clearly understand that, but what we've missed is an opportunity for this body to leverage St. Louis County to amend their requirements based on what.
That would have nothing to do with this private application.
If the county was changing that intersection, you're saying, if the county is saying, rather than what they've done, approve this plan, if the county says, no, we'd want your access to utilize the combined electric signal there.
County has
Wait.
the same restrictions that we do as a public body in that they also can't require them to do anything unless it's warranted. County provided us the evaluation that it is not warranted to require the signalized intersection. So the city has no leverage in terms of this application to ask for more from the county. If we want to give the county money and do it, that's a whole separate project on public improvement, but we do have to be careful on tying our desires and asking for something more than we can defend or rationalize on private applications. So,
Yeah, because if I look, as you so well stated that this operation comes out of there today and tomorrow, 10 years, 100 years out, traffic flow changes because the next operation says, I'm going to have 300 people coming in here.
mhm.
We're still stuck with where we are.
We're stuck with a safe right in, right out operation with a median that doesn't allow people to turn left. So it's not going to back up traffic eastbound on Big Bend.
Mm,
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Anything else, Wallace?
No, I think, well, I did have a question. If I recall this neighborhood, when we looked at the missing middle piece, you could come around through Fillmore and still access Kirkwood Road.
Yes, so there is a roundabout connection through Chester, Taylor, up through, what's the northernmost street? Commerce. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Chester, let's see, I guess I have the clicker. I can move it.
No more to come.
So Chester connects to Kirkwood Road, up Taylor, then Commerce would be up here, and then Fillmore would be here. So they're feasibly, again, public roads, right? It's a matter of what we wanted to do was not make a physical connection to those roads to require or encourage,
No, I get that.
but
I just,
Yeah.
people were thinking that there is no other alternative.
Oh, right,
access.
right,
There-
sure.
there is.
yeah, there's other
From the-
circulation within the area. That's correct.
Thanks.
Jonathan, on that, you still cannot, going south on Kirkwood Road, you still cannot make a left onto
Chester,
Chester, correct?
legally.
I mean, you're not supposed to, it's not a full median, I don't think.
Is there a sign there?
There's a sign and there's a median.
Yeah.
It's a mountable median
Right.
because of emergency services.
Right. Yeah,
So there's a lot more authorized vehicles than you think out there.
yeah, okay. Okay.
If you're northbound, you can make a right in.
North,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, if you're, yeah, if you're going northbound on Kirkwood Road, you can turn right on Chester. Yeah.
And go around that way, yeah.
Mhm.
It might behoove the applicant to let their membership know that alternate.
As Bill said, people with Google Maps and everything, people figure it out real quick of the best way that they can get to any location. It's not drive-by, right? Like Bill said, it's a destination. People will know where they're going before they get in the car. So
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yeah, to kind of add on to all of this, I think, yes, we found a way for folks to get around. I think whatever's here, this location is difficult regardless of whatever goes in here. I think a lot of folks are gonna look at Google Maps and they're gonna look at this cul-de-sac on Taylor and say, I'm just gonna go down and make a right on Taylor and go to the cul-de-sac. Whether that's what we desire or not, I think that's gonna be a natural overflow that people realize what Liz discovered. Well, I can't make a left on Big Bend. I'm gonna make a left on Kirkwood Road, go past Docks, make a right, go down to Taylor, make another right, and there's the cul-de-sac. That's the fastest, easiest way to drop off my child. So I don't know
If
if
you
that,
have young kids, that's not going to be fast. So it is an uphill walk. I mean, P and Z talked about this as well. The likelihood that you're going to schlep one or two kids up the hill.
and maybe that's
Yeah,
not
so-
practical.
Yeah, I mean,
Just saying that's,
sure.
hopefully that's been considered. and
Yep.
I'm sure you have.
Yep.
But it wouldn't surprise me if folks still
They
show
could.
up and they schlep up the hill.
And they could legally park there like every other public road, right? But
Exactly.
yep, sure.
Exactly. So that's really it. I think it's just, we all know that this is it's a tough spot. This is where you would say challenge accepted because there's no easy way. And I think Councilmember Ward, for somebody looking at a map, having the intersection there to a lot of folks, a lot of reasonable residents is just, they would say, well, it's common sense. But the volume is not there to do it. Based on the traffic study and what St. Louis County recommended, but it would make sense in, if we could go back and have a four-way intersection.
Well, I didn't
Obviously,
think that our
that's-
complete streets and Vision Zero was based on traffic volume. I thought it was
No,
a
no.
philosophy of
I mean,
safe,
that's
whether
part
it's
of
two
it.
cars or one.
Sure. I mean, volume is taken into account, but that's not a deciding factor. All I'm saying is a lot of people look at this and say, why don't you just move that over and change your lot and make a light there? That's all I'm saying. But again, it's a difficult spot to do that. It's not that simple. Just as, folks knowing to go around. Great, but a lot of folks are gonna say, I'm just gonna turn and come down Taylor and they may take the challenge to schlep the kids up the hill. So I think it's just something to be aware that could happen. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Dewey, anything?
Just quickly, you remember the day that we spent on Zoom with St. Louis County of Big Bend from one end to the other.
Mhm.
This fits in, this is a question sounding like a statement, but this fits in with that end of, because it's kind of at the very end of what we consider. Does this fit in with all that was discovered and discussed?
Yeah, so the road safety audit that you're referring to, so, I mean, this area does have existing sidewalks that'll maintain, and I believe there's a separation between, I think it's not even right up against the curb. So I don't recall from that road safety audit. I know we talked about the Milwaukee intersection.
Yes.
And improvements that could be made
Yes.
there. We talked about the Kirkwood Road intersection.
Right.
Further west on Big Bend, I know there were between intersections, discussions of mid-block crossings and sidewalk improvements and things. I don't recall, Bill, do you, anything in this between Milwaukee and Kirkwood that jumped out at that road safety audit of something that needed to be addressed? So,
And would it now?
no. You mean with this plan, like would this cause something to?
Yes.
No, I don't, I think it will not cause any additional issues with that road safety audit.
Thanks, Jonathan.
All right, thank you. Any final questions for staff? Jonathan, Amy, Bill, petitioner? All right. With that, this public hearing is closed. This item will be on our new business agenda on December 1st. Is that it? Okay, all right. Now we go to the second public hearing, which is a request for a special use permit and major site plan for the construction of a new daycare on the properties of 10551 and 10557 Big Bend Boulevard. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor, I would simply identify, as we did with the previous public hearing, that exhibits 1 through 8 that were introduced at that prior public hearing are part of this record, and similarly, all of the testimony and all the discussion that took place with respect to the rezoning is applicable to this request for a special use permit and major site plan.
Right, seeing nothing further, we will then, this public hearing will be closed, and this item will also be on our new business agenda on December 1st. All right, public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city clerk, up to the city council, to the chief administrative officer, or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you. Do we have anyone wishing to speak?
Mayor and council, there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, David. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
For a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes. We'll move to unfinished business.
Mayor and okay,
Yeah,
I'll
go
read
ahead.
it and then we'll,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1005 and all other previous fire prevention codes in conflict with this ordinance and enacting a new fire prevention code, International Fire Code First Printing 2021 edition, including appendix chapters B, D, E, F, I, L, and K, published by the International Code Council and the National Fire Protection Association, including amendments set forth herein, governing the design, construction, alteration, enlargement, equipment, repairs, conversion, use, or maintenance of all buildings and structures, prescribing minimum requirements and controls to safeguard life, property, or public welfare from the hazards of fire and explosion, providing for the issuance of permits, collection of fees, and making of inspections, providing penalties for the violation thereof, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you, Russ. We have been asked, there's some final details that need to be worked out on this from the fire chief to continue this bill to our December 1st meeting. Is there a motion to continue
Move
December 1?
approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments on that motion? All right, seeing none. All in favor of continuing to December 1st, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes. All right. You have to read it again, Russ. Sorry.
You got it covered.
Yeah. Moving to new business, Bill 10952.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance appropriating $22,600 from the Equitable Sharing Fund balance to the Police Department Machinery and Equipment account and authorizing the mayor to enter into a 2-year services agreement with Flock Group Incorporated for the lease and installation of 4 Flock safety cameras for the police department.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I had a question.
I should ask,
Mhm.
Russ, do you want to explain briefly what the flock?
Yeah, the flock camera, and the reason it's called a flock camera is because it acts in conjunction with other flock cameras as a network of really intelligence gathering for the purpose of identifying criminal activity. And it's useful for particularly stolen vehicles. It's got license plate reading capability. But it ties into a national database as well as a local database, and it allows the police departments to be aware of if there's a ping or if it identifies, for instance, a stolen car in a parking lot like Walmart or something along those lines. It will ping all the jurisdictions around us for that stolen car so that they can be aware. And it also, if there is a specific attribute or aspect, like it's a red Mustang or something along those lines, a 68 Mustang, for instance, then, if that is on a wanted bulletin on a database list, this will notify the concerned agency that had that on there, that we think we've located this car, or this could be one of the cars, or it meets a description of a car that you've been concerned with a suspect and so forth. So it's really part of an overall approach that we're seeing more and more of in the St. Louis area to help police departments coordinate with each other. So
these 4 cameras will just add to that.
Thanks. I know questions over here. Do I have to see hands? Councilmember Ward. Go.
Yeah, I think that's a great lease. I'm wondering why we selected just 2 years.
I can't answer that. It's what I believe was offered as part of this program. The police department vetted the lease. It's been vetted through our procurement as well. And 2 years is where they ended up.
Yeah, if, I know it's not gonna change the vote here tonight, but I'd like to know that. I think these have a track record of reliability, so I'm just wondering why we kind of short.
This is only first reading. So this is one where you have a,
Mhm.
that's something we could get before a second reading.
Yeah, we can get you that for a second reading. That's no problem.
Is there anything else? Councilmember Gibbons?
They can't be used in any way to slow down traffic.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, okay. That's something, I mean, I thought it was an opportunity time to talk about the fact that we have a lot of cars driving way too fast, just like everybody, just like all communities. Everyone's so concerned about it. And we had 2 people come at our last meeting. And, you know, I just want to advocate to show the community that we're trying to do something. So, whatever that might be.
Well, I'd say in a secondary or tertiary way, it can impact that because if it gets a stolen vehicle off the street, then the person who's driving it conceivably could be captured as well. And that may be one of those people who could in the future speed down the road. So while it may not be a direct intervention, it does lessen the, I think it does have an impact.
And I know we already have 3, and this will be an additional 4 to the 3 that we have, right?
Correct.
And I'm assuming they go on well-traveled roads, Manchester, Kirkwood. They're not going in neighborhoods.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Seeing none, then all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Bill passes first reading. Resolution 143, 2022.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the parking permit fees for the Downtown Special Business District in accordance with section 14-334-2 of the Kirkwood Municipal Code of Ordinances for 2023.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Gibbons?
Well, I saw in here that no changes to permit fees from last year, but then it does say that the 1-day permits shall be effective immediately. Do we not have 1-day permits? Is that why it's effective immediately?
Dave? Not sure. You said in that meeting, do you know if that's a 1-day permit is a? We may have to get that answer for you later.
I think it's just, it looks like it's just a date issue. It seems to me that the 1-day permits fees are effective now, the rest are effective 1/1/23.
What is the amount of what's effective now then?
I don't know, but this is effective immediately, so.
Okay, the answer was maybe a clerical error, but it is the Amtrak permits or the 1-day permits.
And they've always been,
We've had those.
Yeah, we haven't changed the pricing on them or anything.
Can change it, yeah.
Same price will take effect immediately.
That's right.
Contractually, yeah.
Way to read.
Cleared it up perfectly.
All right. Well, if there's something significantly different than that, let us.
Yeah,
Had one before.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin? Councilmember Gibbons?
yes.
Councilmember Litzo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sears?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 144, 2022.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of Brown and Caldwell in the amount not to exceed $32,182.93 for a 2022 water loss audit for the Water Department and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have any questions or comments? Councilmember Lutzo?
Well, could we have Bill come up and talk about this? I'm really excited about this whole thing, but I was wondering how this might, would it dovetail with previous searching or what, how does this like focus us?
So first, I'm very excited that you're excited about it. Okay, water loss. That's great. Okay.
You know, reducing loss of water and also revenue that goes with that water, I'm very excited. And that
Okay.
money could be used to fix water mains, for
Correct.
example.
Right.
So, I mean, at the
This-
budget planning session that we have about $250,000 in water loss.
Right.
That's a big number. So
Correct.
anyway, we can kind of work on that.
Basically, this is a, the city's never done an AWWA water loss audit. Okay, and this is basically what we consider a desktop audit. It wants to make sure that we're accounting for our water properly through our billing system, through our metering systems and things of that nature. Okay, and that's considered a, now you're gonna mess me up. One is real loss, and real loss is the actual loss through pipes and things of that nature. And then we have apparent loss, and those are through data calculations and errors. And this is a desktop do that to make sure that the way we're doing our accounting for our water loss right now is accurate and according to AWA M36, which is the manual. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. After we get through that process, then we can go into other audits. Okay, and some of the things is that's step one. Then we have a step 2 and a step 3 in that process. That's not part of this desktop audit, but it gives us recommendations to move forward on how we should address the step 2 and 3. Okay, and over time we have already done some of those things already. Okay, we have done thermography to look for leaks, which basically didn't detect the large leaks that we were hoping to find. Okay, and not only that, we also 8 years ago we changed our meters to the AMI system, which was another method that you use in leg 3 of the program. So we've taken steps. Now we're going back and resetting to actually do a desktop audit, make sure our accounting is properly, and then look at the new technologies into the future. The biggest problem with water loss is that it is, even though it's $250,000 annually, up to $300,000 annually, it's still inexpensive. It'll take millions of dollars to accommodate those leaks. And that comes through water main replacements, identifying water leaks. And that's been a problem with our system, is that we have not been able to identify a one single leak that, oh my God, look, this has been leaking for years. We shut it off and all of a sudden everything's fine. What we find out is that we have millions of little bitty leaks all throughout our system due to the age of the system. And that's where we are. We're in our first stage of doing a desktop water audit analysis. And then from there, we'll go on and start looking at the technologies to try and accommodate to reduce that water loss.
Do you have any idea of the potential for reducing losses through this program? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
I would say it's in the millions because it comes back to replacing water mains.
Mhm.
And it's about $1 million a mile to do water main replacements. We have 135 miles of water mains.
Well, in terms of the potential savings of what the results of this study might produce,
Oh,
your desktop.
It's
audit,
desktop.
For example.
Well, I don't believe it'll generate any savings, but what will it generate is if we're making a big mathematical error someplace. Okay, and that's what we're really looking for, is if we're doing our accounting properly of how we're accounting for our water loss. So there's no cost savings in this.
Cost recovery, I don't know.
Cost recovery potentially, but that is a high dollar amount for recovery.
All right, thank you. I'm still excited about it.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm also excited,
Great.
Bill. You mentioned,
It's a very liquid stuff. It's good.
I can't believe it's been 8 years,
Mhm.
but I wanted to ask about the water meters. I know that at the time, it was said that the water meters would more accurately reflect water loss,
Mhm.
maybe capture more water use. How have those meters played out now that it's been 8 years? They've been replaced. What's happened since then?
Well, it's been very difficult to accommodate to see because we predicted when we went through that study, it was claiming we were going to make about a 4% increase by 4%. But our water loss has increased. Okay, so the numbers, we can't clearly define what that saving was through the metering system. But we can make some of those assumptions because the meters that we had out there were from some of the from in the 50s that were put in, and they weren't spinning. So we're not accounting for that water at all with those meters. But because of our water loss and things of that nature, it's very hard to put an actual percentage of improvement that from that program.
But if you've got meters that weren't spinning versus meters that are working now, you're at least mitigating that loss.
Correct.
All right, thanks, Bill.
No free water anymore. Councilmember Ward?
Well, Bill, at a 1% replacement rate that we're at, Mark and Nancy would be excited 100 years from now that we're leaking the same amount of water. Isn't that about right?
About right.
It's not more.
All right, anything else? All right, seeing now, no further questions, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons?
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sears?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 145, 2022.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution amending the contract with McConnell and Associates Corporation by increasing the amount by $31,518, which includes a contingency of $5,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $279,951 for pickleball court, ADA handrail and ramp compliance, and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Gibbons?
Did this just get missed when they designed it?
No, I wouldn't say it was missed. It's more that we brought in our ADA compliance officer and they identified that this needed to be included. And whether it was included at the beginning or the end is still going to add the cost that it does. So I think we went through our normal procedures and they identified that it needed to be included.
So, it was not included in the original.
Correct.
Sounds like maybe it should have been or could have been, but is that
ADA wasn't involved.
is that accurate? Or not?
Yeah, I think that it rightfully should be part of the project. And in going through our normal procedure, which is bringing in an ADA consultant, they identified the way to treat it.
Which,
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Ward.
so we were obligated to do this no matter what.
Correct. It doesn't change that fact. That is
So,
correct.
so it made the $330,000 pickleball courts that we had approved now over $600,000 pickleball court.
Hmm.
No,
No, I don't think so. It's only $31,000 additional.
Yeah, 360.
31, yeah, that's the
360.
the contract is not to exceed.
Not to
39.
exceed them, okay.
So it's 30, it's a 31.5.
31,518.
Which still keeps it under the 300,000.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
real concerned about doubling the
Yeah.
price of it. for
Yeah.
the Handrail.
All right,
Seriously.
Gold-plated
Yeah.
pickleball court.
better have pickleball courts, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but that's
They're all
another
gonna
day.
have to be ADA compliant pretty soon, just because some of the people we know are playing. Some of our friends.
The handrail while they're playing.
That's right.
Oh,
All right. Anything else on this?
No.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes,
Councilmember Dewey.
Yes.
Resolution passes. No consent agenda items. City council reports. Anything from council? Yeah.
Oh.
She's excited, so let's let her go.
No, I was just gonna tell you quick two things. The Arts Commission has approached the Jimmy. And they're gonna put murals that the students from Merrimack have designed on the fencing. So I think
Like
that'll be very cool.
performing, like they did Performing Arts Center. That's
Yes.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll be very cool. And then I wanted to let you know that the library board voted last night to submit a resolution opposing the bill that the Secretary of State introduced. And one thing I found about limiting books that are in the library, one thing I found out is that our library will limit what students can check out based on what their parents' preferences are.
Yeah.
I never knew that they could do that. So,
All right, thank you. I see another hand. Oh, Councilmember Zimmer, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's all right. The planning and zoning will be read by our city clerk, mentioning pickleball, which was at planning and zoning last night. There was a vote on that. And then today is my stepson Eli's 21st birthday. And he is celebrating right now at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Wow. Cool. Wow.
Wow.
So happy birthday, Eli.
Oh, nice.
Why are you,
He's-
why are
he's
you
not
here
quite
and not in
five,
Lambeau with him?
He went with his dad, so yeah. He's having a lot more fun.
Oh, man, look at this. We're offended by them.
No,
aren't
don't
you?
be. No, don't be. I'm still
No,
having
good for
fun
him,
here.
good for
Yeah.
him. All right, anything else from council? All right, Chief Administrative Officer report.
Well, I did want to report that I attended an excellent program today with the Medal of Valor. Our own recipient, John Hessel, invited Mayor and I and David Weidler as well to attend today. Just an incredible moving experience. That's impressive.
City Attorney report.
I agree with Russ.
What he said.
All right, City Clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor, I have the report of the November 16th, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken after a presentation by staff and the petitioner for a special use permit with outdoor use for an animal facility major at 10320 Manchester Road, Green Tree Center. A subcommittee was appointed. The subcommittee will meet on the subject site at 8 a.m. on Monday, November 21st. And the commission recommended approval of a partially amended major site plan for a special use permit at the Greenbrier Hill Country Club, 12665 Big Bend Boulevard for 4 pickleball courts and a swimming pool deck expansion. A public hearing will be scheduled for that on December 15th. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Great, thank you very much. We will meet again on December 1st at 7 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.